When comparing these two films, on the surface level they could not be more different. Boy by Taika Waititi is an indie comedy, full of childish humour and absurdist imagery. Moonlight by Barry Jenkins is a dark biographical drama that tackles race and sexuality through art house conventions. So why do these two very distinct films have so many similarities? On first viewing, both films show coming-of-age stories centred around a problematic relationship between a child and his father. However, the similarities don't stop there. Both films share deep thematic and narrative parallels. Boy follows an 11-year-old who resides in a tiny, worn-down town in rural New Zealand. The protagonist, called Boy, sees his dad, Alamein, as a literal superhero, a man he knew briefly as an infant, but has largely grown up without. In Moonlight, Chiron grows up never having had a father until he meets a local drug dealer, Ron, who looks after him and protects him where no one else will. Each child forms a close bond with this new figure, as they provide the one thing each child seems to crave most. For Chiron, this is acceptance, without judgment. One asserts how important personal choices are, as he teaches Chiron to be a man.
At some point, you gotta decide for yourself who you gonna be.
In Boy, Alamein puts on an act to keep his son entranced with the idea of his superhuman status, where Alamein pushes his son away to protect his own fragile self-esteem.
Can you stop calling me Dad?
Ron lets Chiron in and demonstrates a softer and more understanding side of fatherhood. Despite their distinct parenting styles, both children unfortunately fall prey to their father's character flaws, as they attempt to emulate their father's image. It could be argued the main driving force for the children imitating their father's image is in response to their hyper-masculine environment. Both films are set in deprived communities in the 1980s, an era defined by excess and extravagance. In each film, Ron and Alamein are shown as ideals for success and masculinity. They both drive an expensive car, and they're both in charge of a local criminal organisation that garners respect among the community. In Boy, we see Alamein Jr. mimic his father in a desperate attempt to bond with him, and it's glaringly obvious when we see Alamein take advantage of his son to make himself feel better, how damaging this need to be tough and in charge is. In Moonlight, we see that toxic masculinity is embedded in the local community. We see it when the bullies at school, and even Chiron's own mother, ridicule him for his perceived femininity.
You ever see the way he walk?
We see it again when Kevin, Chiron's closest friend and only confidant in his sexuality, betrays Chiron in order to fit in and retain his tough image. A major thematic similarity is displayed when we see both Alamein Jr. and Chiron adopt a different external image in order to deal with their relative situations. Both films use water as a signifier of the transition between their true self and their constructed image. In Moonlight, during Chiron's first father-son experience and his first time revealing his sexuality, we hear the sound of waves. These sounds appear throughout the film when Chiron's true self is exposed. This is also the case in Boy. However, it's Alamein Sr.'s true self that is exposed as he plays with his son at the beach. The two share an honest moment where for once, Alamein isn't pushing his son away in an attempt to maintain a facade. What is also used as a sort of baptism for both Alamein Jr. and Chiron. For Chiron, this baptism is a transformation. When Kevin succumbs to peer pressure and betrays Chiron, Chiron rebuilds himself by assimilating Ron's hard gangster image. In Boy, after his father embarrasses him in front of his friends and abandons him again, Alamein Jr. falls off a bridge into a river. After he exits, we see him return to his responsible and caring self present before Alamein's introduction. Both films end in a bittersweet, melancholy scene of forgiveness, where our protagonist forgives their betrayers for their past actions and share a tender moment where the front of hypermasculinity drops away and allows two men to be vulnerable and show their internal self in its truest form.
You're the only man that's ever touched me.
Although both films are on the surface completely separate and stylistically share no similarities, they both use their respective styles as a filter to discuss the importance of fatherhood, who we are, and what it means to be a man.